There's a great crowd. Thank you for coming tonight. This is Waterwell's first general meeting for the public. And tonight we'll be giving you information on Waterwell First. The spokesperson for Waterwell First is Kevin Jakovic. Kevin lived in CHATHAM-KENT all his life, with being in Toronto for a few years too as well. And he's on a water well, just like I am, just like probably most of you are. Very concerned with our water wells. We want them, we need them. It's a part of our life to be in the country. So right now, I'm not going to delay. I'm going to let Kevin present his presentation.
I guess we've got a few people outside. Hi everyone, I'm Kevin Jakovic. I started into this back in November of last year when I went to see Ken Wade, our local... Okay. Hello? Is that okay? Is that better? Okay. Okay, thanks very much. So I started into this back last November when I went to see Ken Wade, our local well driller, and get some switches for some sub pumps. I asked Ken, we're going to be going into, we'll be getting a wind farm, North Kent 1, around Everts, and I'll be living inside a wind farm. What can I expect? And he said, well, you probably could expect some problems with your well water quality. And I said, well, what's going on? And he said, well, there's been a number of wells in Dover Township that started having problems. They started having black sediment, black particulate coming up in their well water, and that filtration wasn't really solving the problem. And I said, okay. So I said, what can be done about it? And Ken said, well, you're a smart guy. Why don't you look into it? So here I am. Thank you, Ken. So the first thing I did was I looked into the scientific literature, and I did a literature review, and I understood that the way that they were constructed, the foundations, they used impact pile drivers. So that made sense to me that maybe it's the vibration from the hammer pile driver that was causing the problem. And the literature, certainly bears that out, that vibration damage, vibration-induced settlement, it can happen from pile driving. So that would make sense that during the time of construction, and that's when people were reporting problems with their well water quality, that's when they started seeing this sediment appear in their well water. But it didn't explain why, years later, it was still coming in. And so I went back and did more research, and I found that there is a thing called a vibration seismic coupling, where the vibration from a turbine can shed into the local ground conditions. And that's really a frequency problem, not so much an energy problem, but it's the frequency of the vibrations that are coming away from the turbine, from the structure, and going into local ground. And that if you have soil, components of the soil that have a natural frequency at that same frequency, you get a condition called resonance. Resonance is nothing more than shaking. So the literature pointed me to Europe and pointed me to Scotland. And there's a really good study done back in 2005 at Escadilmar, Scotland. And I just followed the trail through the references, and I found an engineer, a PhD in mechanical engineering, whose specialty is vibration damage, and his specialty is vibration impacts from wind farms, Dr. Mark Paul Buckingham. So I got up 3 o'clock in the morning, I made a phone call, because 6 hours difference to Edinburgh, Scotland. And there he is, exactly. And he said, yeah, absolutely, it's completely true, and it's been well known. In fact, in the last 2 years, he investigated 14 wind farms in Europe for this condition. So I told him what was going on in Dover, what was observed, and he said, well, that certainly sounds like that you've got frequencies that are resonating with local ground components. And so we talked about it locally here in Everts, in a coffee shops, and then we decided to have a meeting at the Superstore back in February, and I thought we might get 15 people or so. We had 50 people. And that really surprised me that there was that much interest, but it made sense because people care about their water quality. People really do want to keep their wells. People like the taste of their well water. You know, many of us are multi-generational on the farm and grown up here, and that's the kind of water we've always known. And we've used that water in a lot of different ways, more than just drinking. Bathing, washing clothes, washing farm equipment, our pickups, cars. You use the water a lot of different ways. So we decided that we would, keep after this. And so I contacted the MOE in London and talked to their senior hydrogeologist and said, what's being done with these farms over in Dover? And he wasn't aware of the situation. So I said, well, I have some names of some people in Dover, some residents that are having severe problems with their water quality. Would you come down and take a look? And so I started an investigation. And that's when I started supplying the Ministry of Environment with the studies that I found and the experts that I found. And that went right about until April, end of April. And it turned out that we were kind of on the same page. They were recognizing that vibrations can cause environmental impacts. And so I thought that we were, moving in the same direction, and that the information I was given to the Ministry of Environment was in good faith, because I didn't want to see these problems happen to Chatham Township, and I wanted a fix for the people in Dover Township, because Dr. Buckingham says the fix is pretty straightforward. If the problem frequency is, say, 10 hertz in the local ground, that's its natural frequency, and the frequency is coming from the turbine at 10 hertz, you shift the frequency from the turbine to 11 hertz, and then you're no longer in resonance. And that can be done technologically with vibration dampening, with vibration suppression equipment, and it's been used in Europe successfully. So why aren't we doing that here? And so when I brought that to the attention of the MOE, they thanked me for the information, and they said that they would, take consideration of it. And then we got to the point with the North Kent 1 wind farm where we had our chance to put in our comments for the environmental registry. And so we wrote those comments and those concerns then to tell the ministry formally that, hey, we're kind of worried about our well quality. We understand, we're not dummies here, we understand, we've found out, we've read the literature, we understand it, we've talked to the experts. We know about this condition where vibrations can shut into the local ground. We want to see proper monitoring, we want to see proper remediation, and that if we lose our wells, that there's some recognized form of compensation. Well, we got the answer. On June 30th, they came out with the permit for North Kent 1. They did recognize that a wind farm can impact a well water quality from the construction, from the operation, and from the decommissioning phases. But the remedy that they offered was that if you did have a problem and impact with your well quality, they were going to give us a bowl of water. And I'm not making that up. It's in the permit. If you go on the internet and you look up the permit for North Kent 1, the RE permit as it's been issued for this project, G6, section G6, condition G6, it says that the developer is hereby instructed to provide bottled water until the issue is resolved. And that's just insane. And so we said, well, we're going to form a grassroots organization. We're going to do advocacy. We're going to do protest. And we're going to make it very known to the Ministry of Environment that we're not standing for that. We're not Flint, Michigan. That's where that brings up that image. Those people there are suffering because their impact to their groundwater, and the solution that you see on the TV is they'll drop off cases of bottled water. A few of their water lines are fixed, but many aren't. And the way it was written in the permit was receive bottled water until such time the problem is resolved. Well, that's not specified. That's not acceptable. That's plain outright outrageous. And so we formed our organization, Water Wells First, And within the first 2 weeks, we called for Glenn Murray, he's the Minister of the Environment, we called for his immediate resignation. We're not going to take that. We have rights. We're entitled to our water. We're entitled to safe, potable water. It's here. It's beneath our feet. The aquifer is 12,000 years old. We should protect that aquifer because we depend on that aquifer. And that was the position we took. We're not anti-wind. We are looking at this from an environmental point of view that we think because of the experience in Europe and that the success of fixing these problems, that all we need to do is get more attention on this problem and see that the ministry will then do what's necessary and make sure that the developer doesn't try to address this with bottled water. That's a Band-Aid. That's not solving the problem. Offering filtration systems, that's a Band-Aid. We have people here tonight from Dover, and they'll tell you it's not working. There's thousands of dollars that they spent out of their own paychecks on filtration systems, and I mean thousands. We're talking $7,000, $8,000, and it's not working. That they're going through cartridges, filtration cartridges, so rapidly that adds up in cost. They need to drink clean water, so they're going and getting bottled water. That's not a solution. Or going to the laundromat to do their laundry because they can't do their laundry. Or going to their other family members or friends to take a shower because they can't take a shower because of the sediment that's coming into their water. I'd like to pass this around. You know, this is real. This is what's going on. So I'll pass this around the table. Please take a look at that. That's from one of our neighbors over in Dover Township. That's unacceptable. And that's on a good day. On a bad day, that is chock full of black sediment particulates. The filtration doesn't work at this location. What we're advocating for and why we felt that we had no choice but to take the permit for North Kent 1 to an environmental review tribunal was to address the shortcomings that the ministry has allowed in that permit. We did get groundwater monitoring. It's the first. That's true. We did get groundborne vibration monitoring. That's the first. That's true. So the work that we did in the last 8 months, we do have something to show for it. The problem is in the way it's been implemented and written in the legalese of the conditions. It's so broad in scope that it doesn't give us any adequate protection. So what we need is to reopen that permit. We're not asking to revoke it. We're asking to reopen the permit and address those shortcomings, because the only way that we'll have an opportunity, and this is really important, we have to do this now. We had 15 days to challenge that permit to a notice of appeal to an environmental review tribunal. If we didn't act within those 15 days, that permit stood. No retraction. And you have to think about that. That would be in place for the next 20 years. Well, how's that going to impact our property values? How's that going to impact our health? What kind of future does that leave for our next generation? We couldn't let that stand. So tonight, it's public information. I'm not getting on the website so much here because I'm talking too much. But we did put up a website over the weekend, www.waterwellsfirst.org, O-R-G. And it has our very clear positions. We're not anti-wind. We don't oppose the wind farm development. What we're saying is that it should be a situation where we can exist harmoniously, but with a wind development, but we will oppose a wind development, any wind energy development, where we have to put our wells at risk and where we have to put our aquifer at risk. The aquifer is 12,000 years old. That's unacceptable. And it's unacceptable when you think at the larger picture that it is valid to use wind energy as a form of fighting climate change, and we support that. But it is unacceptable, and part of that solution, to see using bottled water or container water or this idea of running out municipal lines as a solution. These are all band-aids at the surface. Let's find the vibrations. Let's do a proper vibration investigation, and then put on, through proper remediation programs, the vibration suppression technology that exists, and give that a try. So that it doesn't have to be that the entire wind farm is not, not as a no-go situation. It's to exist with the wind farm, and if there is problems, and we do know from our area being sensitive to vibrations, what happened in Dover, what happened years ago in Turnerville when the grain silo was, many of us remember that, where the grain silo was demolished. They dropped it in one single drop, and a lot of wells were lost. Ken went over there to re-drill it. He couldn't get any of the wells re-drilled because the sand aquifer layer had changed. And I think a lot of what we found was, we talk about groundwater, we use it all the time, but it's something we take for granted, and we don't really, think about it until we have a problem. Well, we see a problem coming now, and we're trying to get in front of it, ahead of it. And the best way to fix this problem is to reopen the permit. That's why we're going through the tribunal. We have to ask for support, because these costs to reopen the tribunal, they're significant. You were looking at close to $200,000. And we have to raise that. If we don't raise that, then we won't have the chance to reopen the permit and put in those proper mitigations. So we've got a team. Oh, the ERT process of going through the... Here, let me introduce Craig Strayton. Craig Strayton, he's with the Ontario Groundwater Association. He's the executive director. And Craig, you want to talk about the process of the of going through?
Well, I'll explain a little bit. Yeah, just to kind of give you folks a little bit of a background. You have to understand that the beat in Toronto are pro-wind. And because there has been such a backlash against wind all over the province, they have written a very narrow way that you can oppose it. So this is why when we got into this, and of course I got into this basically through Ken Wade, who's been one of our members for over 30 years now. And Ken called me up, and I spoke to a few of the folks that were in trouble with the pile driving in Dover. I guess it's 3 years ago now. And everything seemed to go away after the initial construction period, and I thought that after the pile driving, that was it. But I did not realize that a lot of folks had been provided with treatment by the wind developer, and therefore I wasn't hearing anything about this. But anyway, back to what I wanted to tell you all, is that there's a very narrow way in which one can challenge one of these REAs, Renewable Energy Approval. And that is to go through what they call it an environmental review tribunal. And as Kevin indicated, we had 15 days to put that together, and all odds were against us. To pull together the information that's required to be successful in an environmental review tribunal in 15 days is practically impossible, and frankly, I believe that it's been set up that way. But in any case, kudos to Kevin. We've done it. So now, at this particular point in time, as Kevin says, what has to be done is the REA has to be challenged, and it has to be rewritten, because typical for, and I have a little bit of experience with the Ministry of Environment, Typically, they wrote in some of it, as Kevin indicated. They said, yes, there'll be a review, and yes, there'll be a community liaison committee and all that kind of stuff. But when you read it, it goes in circles and there's no teeth. There's no autonomy for you folks as the members of the community to change what that developer may decide to do. And so basically, the way it's written right now, the developer hires the specialist, hires the expert. The experts report to the developer. So how do we know that the expert isn't going to be in the developer's pocket? Now, I'm not suggesting anything, but... and that there's experiments and people's wells go down. So this is why we're saying it's reasonable in light of all the research that Kevin has done on what's gone on in Europe. It is reasonable for us to ask for that renewable energy approval to be rewritten, giving you people autonomy in the decision-making over experts, in how this is approached, and that no well should be an experiment. Now, as some of you may know, they tried a little bit of an experiment not long ago with a communication tower. And once again, they caused problems with the aquifer. So this is why we're saying, you've had your time, boys. Get the experts in that we agree with, you agree with. I'm just here as my board of directors. Our motto at the Ontario Groundwater Association is to promote and protect Ontario's most precious resource, which is groundwater. Therefore, when I took this to my board of directors, they said, support it. So that's why I'm here. So this is what we need to do. So far, we have... it's kind of like a pinball machine when you're going through it, because you never know where you're going to get knocked to the next pin you hit. But so far, with Kevin's research and a little bit of my knowledge of the ways of the workings of the government, we've gotten where we are, and now we need to just have our experts. We have 2 members of the Ontario Groundwater Association, a hydrogeologist and a geologist, who are being part of the Environmental Review Tribunal. And Kevin's got his guys, one from the U.S., one from Scotland, yes. And so now we're putting together all the rest of the stuff. So that's part, let's face it, that's part of why we're here. It's an appeal for support from the community. But the other part of why we're here is, please get your baseline water testing done so you have something to prove what you've had. The way the government works, if you can't show them something to say my water has been good, then they won't believe you. And this was the problem in Dover. The people got snuck up on. They had nothing to prove what they had. So it's very important. Now, the best that we can do for you is the Ontario Groundwater Association runs we administer the WellWise water testing program. It's a not-for-profit. You will not get any cheaper water tests around. I would maintain it's even cheaper than the free one you get from the Public Health Department. Taxes are not cheap. In any case, get a baseline water test so you can prove what you have. If you have the opportunity to get a well report, that is the report. Any well drilled since 1952 is technically supposed to have been registered with the Ministry of Environment. If you have that well report, get the well report, your water test papers, get it in a file and keep it in a safe place, just in case you need it. Now, many of you will have dealt with Ken. He may be able to come up with the well reports for you. Not anyone who's interested is more than welcome to get in touch with me. I will direct you to the provincial porthole where you can sort through the maps on record with the Ministry of Environment and come up with your own well report, if it in fact is there. So, I guess I've jumped in and
No, that's quite fine.
taken over. Does anybody have any questions for me before I...
Well report, can that be done by public health also?
No. The water well report is, as I said, any well drilled in the province of Ontario post-1952 is supposed to be registered, and it's registered with the Ministry of Environment. You have to go through the Ministry of Environment to get that copy. Or the well driller if they're still around. Yes, sir. Well, no. I don't know of any other problems in other jurisdictions, but I've got to tell you, as you well know, you're very unique. Down here in this part of Ontario, with the very shallow overburden and the black shale, it's unique to Ontario, really. And so this is what has brought the problem to light. If you go into the Orangeville area, where there's huge wind turbines, but they're all anchored into rock. Up there, you might have a foot of overburden if you're lucky, and it's not causing the same problem. It's the method. It starts with the pylon. That was, as Kevin indicated, fairly understandable. You're banging the hell out of the black shale, it's going to have things jumping around. What we had not anticipated after that first bit in Dover was the seismic coupling that would keep the sand moving.
But I'm in Wallace Township, and we've got about 5 wind turbines on the next few sections, and we don't seem to have that anymore.
Oh, well, you're lucky. That's good.
So when they had that Walker Street disaster,
Yeah.
we had our well tested. I went to the registry office to find out who owned our property when. And then I think I went to the natural resources to get the various records for that time period.
Yep.
And then I got a well driller to take care of the service on the well, but it's been good.
Well, that's good. It doesn't happen to everyone. As Kevin said, there's a frequency there, and if the frequency gets matched, that's when it seems to agitate the sand the most. And then, of course, the water is flowing through that sand to come into your well. So if the... Yeah, okay. So you're below that sand. You see, if your casing had stopped prior to that, you would probably be having the trouble.
I think I'm down about 85 feet.
Yeah. Yeah.
But as far as the health use is concerned, all they care about is E. coli.
Yes, bacteria. Yeah.
They don't care about the sand or any
Yeah.
particulate.
Our well-wise metals, minerals, and salts package covers 40 parameters of chemistry of your water, including the turbidity.
And how's the cost on that?
$132, $25 for the courier in and out, and the administration fee, what did we figure out today? $202.
$202.
So you're looking at close to $400.
No, $202 plus HST.
Yeah.
We're a not-for-profit. We've got this. The history of this lies with Dr. Mary Jane Conboy. When she was with the Ontario Federation of Agriculture, she was adamant that there be a cost-effective water test program for rural people. She set it up. When she left the OFA, unfortunately, the OFA did not feel that they should continue to fund it. So she was on the board of directors at the time of the Ontario Groundwater Association. So the board said, yep, we'll take it over and we'll administer it. So we've kept it at as a not-for-profit. There's no profit there. It's the most cost-effective water testing you'll get in this province.
In fact, for tonight, we have a raffle box. That's exactly what we're raffling tonight to help people bring awareness to looking after their wells. that test package for metals, minerals, and salts, that's the prize tonight for the raffle. So I want to bring up Laura to talk about the petition we have going. We need to bring awareness, and we need our politicians aware of this problem. It's serious. We just cannot allow water quality like this to stand in Canada. I mean, that's unacceptable. So we created an online petition to bring awareness, and Laura will talk to you about what she's found regarding the Municipal Act of Ontario, and then how our municipality can become more involved and actually has the power to put in bylaws that would regulate vibration in the county. Laura?
So, as Kevin mentioned, back in June, we had a little experiment happening in our backyard. There was a control tower that went up in Chatham Township, a few concessions back of my house. And my husband went away camping that weekend, left me with our 2-year-old, and we had relatives. And that's when I got involved, because it was not fun. So in my research, I discovered that the Municipal Act of 2001 provides municipalities with the authority to prohibit and regulate with respect to vibrations. As Kevin discussed earlier, these vibrations from the wind turbines are generating the seismic coupling that is resulting in turbidity in our waters. And as Kevin mentioned earlier as well, there are means of avoiding these vibrations. So we have a petition that has been posted online on change.org. There's a link on our website. There's a link from our Facebook page. And the petition asks the municipality of CHATHAM-KENT to consider the fact that the former Dover Township continues to suffer from cloudy and murky water 3 years after the construction of the wind turbines there. And there are certain health are not suffering from cloudy water and water pumps. Ontario Ministry of Environment and Climate Change has issued an REA permit for the North California farm. And those are alternate foundation options municipalities have the authority to regulate vibrations. Municipalities, councils, please do something and regulate these vibrations for us. So the petition is online, as I mentioned. It's also been circulating. If you've signed in one place, try not to sign in the other so that I don't have to cross-reference too much to come up with an accurate number. And this petition will be presented to Council on August 27th.
Thank you, Laura, for all the hard work in putting that together and looking up after that for us. I think it's important that people realize what it really means to lose good quality water. And tonight, we're lucky to have someone from Dover Township. We have a few people here tonight, but I'd like to invite Michelle to come up. I'd like you to know what it's like to live with the loss of good quality water. And Michelle can tell you exactly what that's like, because she's going through this right now, her and Ron.
My water has been bad now for about 3 years. We've got a windmill kitty corner to us and the field next to us. My washer is full of sand. I replaced it with a new one, and it is now getting full of sand. My dryer is full of sand. My water in my tub is starting to get sand. My drinking water I cannot do. We drink bottled water. We have bacteria coming from some of our taps from the sand. Bathing, have to go to somebody's house. Not fun to travel. Laundry is done in Chatham. It's getting very expensive. I worked at a factory, and we can't be doing this day after day. As for animals, we have animals, and they would prefer to go to the ditch. The scent in our water, sulfur, smell, sand, it's hard to live with.
We're going to get Michelle and Ron help. We're not taking that. We're going to get everybody who's going through that nonsense, that, and I'll say this, bullshit, we're going to get that fixed. And where we're going to do it, we're going to take this permit and we're going to write in the proper conditions, the proper way of handling this that the government did not do. And we're going to ask for support, we're going to ask for your help so that these people, our neighbors, our friends, our family, don't have to live in a third world existence right in our backyard. And we need to do it because it's the right thing to do. I'd like to ask Lee Montgomery to come up because Lee's no stranger to conflict and solving problems like this and getting after the people in the right places. Lee, would you like to come up and say a few words?
Thank you, Kevin. I have caused a lot of vibrations in the last week. And I haven't heard a water well yet. There's a lot of people I'd like to go after tonight when I'm out there. Mike, can you hear me back there? No. Just speak on it. Hold it closer. I don't see any councillors here tonight. I don't see the mayor here. Where the hell are they? Stand up and be counted. Have some guts. I have had a little bit of that over the years. It's cost me a lot of money. I have a Dr. Magna Habis at Trent University who's been a big backer of me. She says I was a lone voice in the wilderness. And Kevin started out that way. And I happened to call him one day. And I said, what relation are you to Emil Jakubek, who I went to high school with? He said he was my uncle. And I had a lot of respect for Emil. He's dead and gone now. I'm still here. A lot of people think I should die. And I'm not going to. I bought a new watch last fall. Got a 25-year warranty on it. Where's the warranty?
Buy green bananas.
I'm going to buy green bananas. What do you do with them?
Give them time to run.
Okay. Anyway, the bureaucracy in this country has got to be in the pits.
Yep.
And I wrote a letter into the Ontario Farmer back 3 years ago in May, and I had Farm and Food Care climb all over me about it. And he said, if you write another letter like that, Montgomery, we're going to write one about you. I said, go ahead. I said, just remember, I didn't mention any names. The day you publish the letter, you've got to put my name in it to be effective. And I said, you'll get a Twitter from my lawyer that day, and the official letter will follow. He's been trying to kiss my butt ever since. I don't take any guff off anybody. And Kevin, you mentioned it a while ago, bullshit. And a lot of it is. But we got to get past that part and talk sense. And we cannot let this happen to our wells. They've got to stand up and be counted. And that's what I'm asking for council right now. And I would ask the press to quote that. And I'm Lee Montgomery. I've been quite a bit in the press. And what I'm much concerned about is the water, is the quality of the electricity going out on these rural lines where the companies that are putting these things in are making big profits. They can build their own damn lines. And the first one that was built in Dover Township, there was 5 of them, and it was put out on a rural line. And I know that. And they cannot dispute me on it. And I'll take them into a court and say it. So, God help them. And the farmers, too, are greedy and put these damn things up to start with. I get wound up. And this kind of crap killed my wife, and I don't like it. And I'm not going to put up with it. I've got a meeting in Woodstock on Friday. I'm waiting for one press to come from Toronto to interview me. And I don't take a back seat to anybody and any government official. Pardon me. Anyway, Kevin, thanks for letting me have a few words. Vibrations, bad.
Thank you very much, Lee. Well, I'd like to ask Rick to come up because he'll have to defend the bureaucracy in the government.
Well, thanks very much, Kevin. I tell people this. Holy mackerel, there's a lot of people here tonight. Wow. I tell people I strive not to be your typical politician. I don't believe in doing what's politically correct. I believe in doing what's right. That's why I'm here tonight. Countries go to war over water because without water they have nothing. So I'm here to say to you tonight that I'm prepared to go to war with you, with this government, with these wind turbines, and if need be the municipality of Chatham-Kent, who say that they are a willing host and as a result has created this big monster. It's not right. I have been fighting since I've been in office for the last 5 years. I've been fighting for the family farm. The family farm in terms of well waters first, the family farm in terms of ground current pollution. And Lee, you're right. He's stirred up a fire inside my belly, and I've been fighting the government with regards to that, as well as you may have read a little bit about the processed vegetable growers as well. I've been fighting on their behalf as well. Because I believe in the family farm. You work hard, generation after generation of these farms. And to have these industrial wind turbines come along and do what they're doing is absolutely insane. I'll use your word, Kevin. It's insane. I mean, they put profit ahead of life. Well, I put life ahead of profit. And these industrial wind turbine companies and the bureaucrats down in Toronto, I've experienced them a few times, and I really question if they've ever been outside of Toronto. When you ask them where eggs come from, they say, well, that's really easy. Sobeys. So, again, I'm on your side. You know I'm on your side. I'm here to do the right thing. And I think it's very, very important. I think one of the things we need to do with the bureaucrats is we need to educate them. We need to educate them. Maybe we hire a bus and we give them a back road tour and let them know. Exactly. No, we won't leave them there. Well, at this point in time, Now, Kevin also talked about testing. Now, back in 2012, Dennis Shaw, where are you? You here tonight, Dennis? Where's Dennis? Back here, Denny. This fella came to my office back in 2012, and he said, Rick, I got a problem. And he came into my office carrying about 7 Coke bottles, if I recall. And he said, Rick, this is the sediment in day 1, when they started pile driving out around Mitchell's Bay. This is after day 2. Right up to day 7. By day 7, you couldn't see anything at all. You couldn't see anything at all. Of course, it affected your bait, killed your bait, and I wrote a letter to the Ministry of Environment, and it didn't go anywhere. It didn't go anywhere at all. My office was telling people, look, test before they come in, so you know the quality of water that you have. And then keep testing as you go along, or at least when it's finished, test your water once again. But this ludicrous idea of saying, well, we'll give you bottled water, Maureen, I feel for you, because that's not the right answer. That's not the way it has to go. We've got to fix this problem. We've got to stop it before it begins. And I'll do whatever I can to indicate and tell the government that this area is not a willing host. I understand that you're not against renewable energy, nor am I. But it's got to be affordable, and it's got to be practical, and it's got to be safe. That's what I believe. And this idea of 15 days to challenge is absolutely crazy. I got flashbacks with the vegetable growers who processing vegetable growers who were given 45 days. And that 45 days is up on August the 12th right now. Now, we've had two town hall meetings, one in Leamington, where we had about 105. And then we had the growers themselves hosted a meeting here in Chatham, and they had around 105 as well. And they're fighting this government as well. They just don't get it. And this government wonders why rural Ontario is blue. Well, there's a reason for that. Because right now this government doesn't listen. I challenge the government as to, well, what consultation have you done in the past to get us to this point right now? And the way it's been shaken up, this is the consultation process right here with probably 250 people or so in this room. With the processed vegetable growers, another 200 plus. That's the consultation. They rely on us, I guess, to do the consultation. Rely on well waters first or water wells first to do the consultation to get people out here. I'm so glad to see that we have members from The Voice and the Chatham Daily News here today as well, because they're going to hear your story. They're going to write your story. They're going to push your story. We're going to get your story out. And with regards to the petition, I'd like a copy of that petition. With your permission, I will put that petition on my website. And I will have copies made at my office for people to take out, get it signed. And we can take these petitions. Yes, you take them to the municipality, but I can also take them. The House doesn't resume until the 13th of September. And there's a lot of work that will have been done by your group, yeah, Kevin, prior to the 13th. But we'll continue to fight on your behalf because, again, I fight for the family farm. I think it's absolutely critical that we do what is the right thing to do, not the politically correct thing to do. Too many politicians do that. Well, I'm not one of those. I'm sorry. I will stand till sometimes I surprise myself, and that I probably have Lee to thank for that because he put a fire in my belly for the Ground Current Pollution Act and so on, which the government knows all about and is refusing to do anything that's killing cattle. But that's a different story.
Killing people too.
Killing people too. That's true. But again, this government wants scientific data. Kevin's got the scientific data, so I think he deserves a hand for that. A lot of work on that.
Thank you.
A lot of work. It's absolutely critical. And then they won't argue with data. Because sometimes I think this government is, don't confuse me with facts, our mind's made up. Well, we'll have scientific data. You ask for that, you'll get it as well. Does anyone have any questions of me before I turn the microphone back over to Kevin? I'm so pleased to see this community really gets behind the protest. See a hand here and then a hand back here. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I would like to address this to Kevin. So us folks that are in the North Kent area, we don't have windmills. I know that they're going to come. What do we do to stop them? What do we do to stop them? Tell us. I know this is a water well meeting for the folks that have them.
No, this is
for us that don't have them yet.
It's for everybody in Ontario. This meeting is the precursor for many, many, many more meetings unless this government makes a sweeping provincial standard, which recognizes the science, stops ignoring the science, we're going to have to do this many, many, many times more. So your question is, what does it mean for you? It means that you face the same risk that we face. You're the next victim.
But listen, we were quoted today, 3 wells on our property, $350 each to have tested. So we go out and have these tested, then they put the windmills up, and then we have to retest them. Like, I'd rather spend $1,000 and hire some hotshot lawyers and sue the bastards. And not only sue the municipality, but sue the people that put the windmills up, the farmers that signed on. Eh? That's what should be done. Like, what do we do to the people? Are we waiting for the windmills to again say something? I started doing stuff 3-4 years ago, and nobody ever called me. You know, what do we do? Like, give us a chance to that. Don't want these windmills.
What Craig is saying to me is that it's the process. It's exactly what you're saying. It's how the Liberal government has created the regulation. And the regulation, what we're doing here, will change that regulation so that it won't come to our wells being on the chopping block. It won't come to our wells being put at risk, or our aquifers across Ontario being put at risk. So to answer your question, what to do? Support us. Help us, because we're going to set the landmark precedent. We're going to set what has to be taken back to the Liberal government to open their eyes. We're using science, they're ignoring science. And your question, well, what can I do? Support us, because we're tackling 35909 head on.
But Kevin, what I just said though, we spent $1,000 checking these wells, and we were quoted that today, $350 a well. Okay, now I hear it's do something. Okay, and then when the windmills come, because we can't stop them, we pay another $1,000 and another $1,000 and keep this thing testing and testing.
You're testing now to protect your well water. You're testing to get a baseline, right? That's the cost. It's necessary to do that now, but in the next little bit, what we're doing is to make that unnecessary. If you see what I'm saying. What we're going to do with this tribunal is to rewrite the standard with science.
Mm-hmm. This one, I've got the signs up too. I don't have the windmills yet. And that's a little bit help, but we cannot afford to use that.
Oh, I agree. No, on that, I hear you. No, like, look, we don't have the ability to keep forking money out unnecessarily, and we shouldn't have to be forced to take these baseline tests. On that, I totally agree. This is the process that they put us in. The way that 359 regulation is set up, it's set up with public meetings that our voices aren't heard. That's what happened. Like, how many of us were here at the original meeting back November 5th? Put your hands up. Put your hands up. We were here November 5th, and we were here right at this spot. And we told the wind company executives, we're concerned about our wells. We're concerned about what happened over in Dover. Here we are now in the same spot, and look how many are here. We can affect change. We can affect getting this legislation changed.
Yeah. Okay. Will they support us against these windmills? All the people that are here today?
I think the part that's being missed here, sir, is that if we get this renewable energy approval rewritten the way we are intending to do, and we'll do it, they will not be able to construct those windmills without considering the water. That's the process that we're in. And as Kevin says, it's going to be precedent setting across Ontario. The Turtles did it, so can we.
Listen, I'm willing to spend $1,000 as long as we don't have to continue doing that.
Well,
exactly. Yes.
Okay, there's a lady in the back.
Yeah, no, exactly.
But do you have any suggestions? Can we do anything else to stop us from putting them on?
Test your water, get a baseline. That's your insurance policy. Now write a check to Water Wealth First to help us put this through.
You asked the question.
I was also quoted $350. Put that in your mouth.
Yeah, well, that would be through a private lab, right?
No.
Ken. Ken.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Yeah, okay, well, you have to pay for his labor. What I'm saying with the 202 is if you do it yourself through our website.
Oh, there's a person back there.
There was a question that's being asked.
Yes, ma'am.
They can't hear it.
Okay.
Okay. The lady's asking how long this appeal process will take. Actually, typical of the government process, it's wedged right in quick. The September the 23rd. Or
21st is, the decision has to be rendered by January 13th.
Yes. Okay. So the hearing is in September, but the decision they have until January.
No, that stopped.
Yeah.
That stopped. By filing the appeal, it has stopped the construction. So to get your question, do we have some teeth? We have some teeth, because look at how many teeth are in this room now. Every one of us is a stakeholder. Every one of us has property that will soon find itself in the boundary of a wind farm. And this is really important for people to really, have to be aware of. When that permit's issued, it's binding. The power behind that REA permit comes from the Green Energy Act. What's 35909, Regulation 35909, as it's written, allows the government, the Liberal government, when they write that permit, those conditions, they're in black and white, they will stand for the next 20 years. So now for us in this area that find ourselves defined by the boundary of North Kent 1, if we go to, as it is now, if we want to sell our property and someone approached us as a buyer and said, well, I'd like to buy your property, but I want to make sure you've got good well water, you have to take the E. coli coliform test through the public health. Different mortgage companies, banks that have different standards. They'll have take 2 tests or take 3 tests. There's a little variation there, but not much. They just want to make sure there's no bacterial contamination. They do that so that they can get what's called a potability certificate. But now, because of this permit that's issued, and our properties are inside the boundary of North Kent 1, you have to also disclose that REA permit. And G6, yes, it's good. It is implicitly written in G6 that the Ontario government, the Ministry of Environment, recognizes that during the construction, during the operation, during the decommissioning phases, that the wells could be negatively impacted. And then they direct the wind developer to give bottled water until the issue is resolved. Okay, so if I go to your farm and you're inside our area, or you're going to be bounded by this permit if it's not challenged by us now, and I say to you, well, say, Rick, you have a property, and I say, well, Rick, that's fine, I'd like to buy your property, but I know that this permit is on your property. You can give me those tests for E. coli and coliform, that's fine, I accept it that right now you have good well water, but you cannot guarantee to me, because the Ministry of Environment has now implicitly said that it may be at risk. So now I know that, and I know that the government has only directed the wind developer to offer bottled water until the issue is resolved. I have to think that I have to write down that property value. Now, that's a huge, huge consequence for a permit that was poorly thought out, poorly executed by people, and I'll say this, people in Toronto who haven't got a clue about rural Ontario.
They think water comes at a tap.
Exactly. They think water is always available from a water line or from a tap. And that the solution would be running a water line. It's not the solution. We just don't take nonsense. We don't take this line down. they should have done better due diligence and then made that decision before they came in the area to offer leases. And then they could have then calculated that the type of turbine they chose, the type of suppression equipment for vibration they would have had to have used, and then calculated the cost benefit of whether to go ahead with this construction project or not. It's not done in the right direction. This is part of Regulation 35909. This is what the Liberals have given to the wind industry. They've given them the ability to just pick some land, get some farmers, the people who want to sign the leases, and go to it. Without the consideration of the rest of the community, without the consideration for our needs, our human rights to enjoy water, and without the consideration of the environment. The aquifer is 12,000 years. And you talk to people in this room, like Dennis, like you're talking, Rick. How many days, Dennis, did it take before you started seeing an effect from the pile driving? 1 day, 2 days? A couple days. 12,000 years of nature and started to be damaged in 2 days. That's unacceptable. It shouldn't have to be that way. It doesn't need to be that way. It's getting, as Dr. Buckham said in Europe, they're still having problems when they run into a situation. And he told me, where they run into this problem, you have a government regulator that's not on top of their game. And I found this out. You're going to be shocked when I tell you this. The Ministry of Environment has no point man to the wind industry. They don't send somebody off to the conferences and stays up with all the developments in technology. They rely on the wind industry to advise them. Well, that's crazy. Because how are you expected to know what's adequate and not adequate? How are you expected to know what's proper? And on vibration, I have to tell you this, because I suggested this to the Ministry of Environment months ago. It's a program called, or it's called in the wind industry trade, condition monitoring. Condition monitoring is vibration sensors and vibration data loggers that are placed throughout the structure of the turbine. Right? You have them in certain areas so that you can pick up the vibration, because in my research, I bought a few engineering wind turbine books, and it talks very clearly, because of the wind being turbulent in nature and the large rotor sweeps where you're picking up thousands of tons of kinetic energy from the wind, which is turbulent, turbulence induces vibration. If you're going to deal with wind, you're going to deal with vibration. I know because I even have a small little 3 kilowatt turbine on my family farm. So I have a wind turbine, a small one. It's a pea shooter compared to these things. I don't see a problem with wind, but it's when developed and done properly. They know in the wind industry that vibrations cause problems on their structure. And if they put this condition monitoring system on with these vibration data sensors and data loggers, they get a discount from the insurance companies. Where's our discount? Why don't they share that information with the regulator? And I suggested that months ago, that if they're using that technology, give that over to the Ministry of Environment. They're taking the advantage for them, but it's considered proprietary information, proprietary data that they're getting a financial gain from. But yet, they're looking after themselves, but they're not looking after the wells or the aquifer. There is so much that they are missing, and so much that they are out of sync of the current technology and current best practice. And that's what where we got them. And I have to tell you this, there is no vibration standard that the Ministry of Environment and Material uses for wind farm development. None. We're going to change that. So I just want to, you have a question?
I'm sorry for putting my head up here. It's done, but I agree with pretty much everything that's been said tonight. But you mentioned that to take to the next step, it's going to cost us maybe $200,000 or thereabouts. And with a government that has a majority, and that is their strong agenda, what is our chances of getting those regulations changed?
Very good, because we're using the top experts in the world. Very good. Yes, go ahead, Craig.
Sorry, I think I can. Okay, so this is past politics right now. So what I mean by saying that is that we're now in the realm of the bureaucrats, and like it or not, we have to play a bureaucratic game, but also like it the fact that they have to obey the law. So where we are now with this environmental review tribunal, we can convince, which we can with the science that we have, there is no guarantee that they will take it in consideration, so we may have to start that process all over again, which means as soon as they have their public meetings, I understand they've had one already. I think they kind of ended up with their tail between their legs from what Kevin told me. But it's up to the folks, the residents of the Otter Creek project, to keep the pressure on. Let's put it that way. When that comes up on the Environmental Bill of Rights, get as many people as you possibly can to write in. That will get, because that sways the folks, because again, you've got to remember, how was it that Nick Coella called himself? What did he call himself?
A clerk.
Yeah.
A clerk.
And what does he check for?
Oh, if the boxes are checked. If that's all the approvals are done. That in Toronto for the MOE, it's a clerk who just looks at to make sure the forms are filled out and checked off, but he has no scientific background. He's just a clerk, and he admitted that. He said, I'm just a clerk making sure that these forms are filled in properly.
And that's the guy who's helping to approve. Okay? So that's why it's important that as many residents as possible write in their objections. Okay? And I'm going to tell you right here and right now, one of the reasons why we are steadfastly not against wind, we're not anti-wind, because that science we have to acknowledge. We do need renewable energy. We can't be an ostrich and stick our head in the ground. There has to be renewable energy. Our point is not at the expense of the aquifers. So when you're writing in for Otter Creek, which I understand that'll be the next one, Kevin?
Yes.
Otter Creek, when you're writing in on the EBR, talk about your aquifers, because that's what's important to you. And I'll tell you frankly, sorry ma'am, I'll be with you in a minute. I'll tell you frankly, wind noise, the only ones who've won so far are the turtles. Besides that. Okay? So, unfortunately now I did hear that in Huron County, the health department has just announced that they're going to be doing a study about wind noise, vibration, headaches, all that kind of stuff. That might come to some good. But for right now, you need to have your baseline water test for protection. You can employ Ken to do it, and he does 2 tests. He doesn't just do the metals, minerals, and salts. He does radon as well. Or you can do it for yourself, but get that baseline, and then be ready. If you don't have the EBR up on your Google search engine, get it up there and check it every now and then so that the minute something for the project in your area comes up, you can get organized. Yes, ma'am.
The Environmental Tribunal, once they've made a decision, if they find that the permit cannot be amended, what recourse do we have? Is their decision final, or can it be appealed?
No. To the best of my knowledge,
I had to file it in my own name, and I had the choice if I want to stay the decision of the tribunal. I decided not to stay the decision because if you opt to stay the decision, it then moves into divisional court. If you move into divisional court, then you're at risk for being hit back for legal fees and hit back for construction delays from the wind developer. So I went on my own name, and I took it, and we successfully, with Craig's help, we were able to get, and it was really a lot of work in those 15, and I mean a lot of work that we're able to put that in. And so I'm the single appellant right now. We have a very, very strong scientific argument.
But their decision is final.
The decision will be final.
After that, I'm not saying this, but it's up to country justice.
You didn't say that.
I'm not sure if Craig meant to say resolution, but it sure sounded like revolution. Why not? You know, one of the things that I was also sharing with Kevin is the fact that he and I can work with, he'll work with my office as well. I'm more than happy to. And we have liaisons, environmental liaisons that we can work with as well. And we can take, you know, how you want things worded, and we'll push hard to get it through. The thing that really bugs me about the bureaucrats is that you know, the cost. You mentioned $200,000. Well, that they know that they just put it. Where'd you get that number from? Well, we just kind of grab it. There it goes, and here we are. This is what it's going to cost. That's my opinion. But it really bothers me because they know that then who in the right mind has that kind of money to throw against it, so therefore we win. Well, you know what? I've been fighting for the 21 pit bulls in this area, and I guess I must have a little pit bull in me as well, because I will fight. I will fight. Now, this young lady's been very patient, and I thank you. That's okay. What is your question?
We can take the test on our own, which is cheaper, but if we want to prove the water is from our well and have a leg to stand on, we can hire a licensed tester.
Mm-hmm. Great. Craig can answer that one.
Okay. You definitely will have an easier time of proving it if you have an invoice from Ken or someone such as that saying that you had nothing to do with the actual collection of the samples. However, there is a chain of custody involved in the ordering, the sample taking, and the results coming back to you that is set up so that you should be protected. Now, we've never had to, in a court of law, take it, but I can assure you that when the time comes, by what was written, and of course we've skimmed over. I really, okay, sorry, I'm going to go back a little bit. The website is not up now, but there it is. There it is. Okay. So there are some instructions here. We took a lot of time figuring this out to kind of help you protect yourself. And certainly it's important that you have this kind of stuff done, the testing, the well report, and all that kind of stuff, as we suggested before. And on the website here, there's a copy, there's a link to the REA. And that was going to be my point. I suggest that you pull up that REA and you read it. Now, it doesn't have any teeth. It goes in circles. But it does say that as it stands, without our amendment, it does say that the wind developers have to do water samples. So my point is, you get your water samples done, but you keep that. That's your trump card. Now you let them come and do their water samples. You get a copy of that, and then you see how accurate they are. You may not have to go to court. You may be able to nab them right there. I'm just saying. But I've been telling Kevin ever since we got into this is like playing euchre. And you got to keep your trump cards back, and you got to be thinking about how you're playing your cards as you go along. And that is one thing that we noted when we first read the REA. It's right in there that the wind developer has to do water sampling on your well. He has to. We got that far with the EBR remarks that they have to identify every well and they have to take tests on every well. But I'm telling you, if I were you, I would have my own test so I could make sure that they were valid.
What if your well's not registered?
Well, that is kind of tough. If your well isn't registered, is it because of the age?
Yes.
Yes. Okay. So then maybe what you want to do is you want to, whoever your pump installer is, have them do a survey saying how deep it is, what the water static water level is, what the pumping water level is, that kind of stuff, and then an affidavit from with your lawyer, just saying that your family's been on that farm for 3 generations. There's never been any trouble with water and that kind of stuff. And you know that's as good as it can get outside of a well report. Yeah.
Question in the back.
It's on.
I was just wondering, what exactly should we be testing the well for? Make sure we have everything covered.
Well, I just recommend the metals, minerals, and salt test through WellWise, and that is as I said, 40 different chemistry. They do things like, I'm trying to think, uranium is one of them, and sodium and calcium. There's all kinds of them. It's on the OCWA website under WellWise testing, and it will give you the list. Yes?
Kevin said a while ago we should be able to enjoy our water. I don't think it's a matter of enjoyment. We need it to survive.
Yes.
And we've had good clean water all these years. We need it to survive, right?
Exactly.
Right. And the other thing, I think somebody asked about these hearings. Is it so, Kevin, that you have to have your things in by Monday the 15th, which gives you hardly any time, and then the meeting actually is, or the preliminary is on the
23rd. Correct.
We can all be there, can we not?
Yes.
To support you.
Yes.
Because I want to make that clear to people. And that's going to be at the John D. Bradley Convention Center, so we can all go there to support them. That is the preliminary one, and then the main hearing is September 21, and then we can be there again, right?
Time to get money. Okay.
We can be there again to support you.
Yes, on the 21st of September.
Okay? And the one on September 21st, that one's going to be at the Thames campus, at the red line room. Everybody knows where Thames campus is, I suppose. And you know where the Bradley Convention Center is. That's going to be ballroom B and C. So I imagine they've allowed to put a bit of space there.
A couple of questions. Come on up, Lee. A couple of questions.
I'm going to get my word in. Who gave permission for the wind developers to come to this area? This is an agricultural community. Who is the one that says, yeah, developers come in? There must have been a top dog somewhere that said it's okay to come and develop.
Well, that's council. That's our mayor. That's our mayor, Randy Hope. There's your top dog.
And why did he want the wind towers in this area? I know Leamington turned them down.
Money.
Why here?
Exactly.
Put the hydro towers where there's rock, where there's no problem. Why here?
Because our mayor wants these turbines, these wind farms for money. There is money. Money. Well, that's the question we need to ask the mayor on August 22nd. And there's another opportunity.
We're backtracking. I think we have to go from the start and go this way, not try and fix the well and see what we're going to do.
You know where the first problem was me? Everybody voted Catherine Wynne in.
There you go. Lee?
I've got a few remarks here to make. And Kevin, you don't know what I'm up to.
Okay.
Patience has been one of my best allies. Patience has been one of my best allies. Now, you heard me talk about being a lone voice in the wilderness. Kevin's that right now. I know there's a lot of people here tonight that can afford it. This gentleman over here talked about $1,000. Well, I'll go to the car and get my checkbook right now and challenge anybody to match it, and I will give Kevin a check for $1,000 to cover what's going on.
Thank you.
I've been on well over 100 farms with what I've been involved in the last 40 years. And I have yet to give a farmer a bill. I will not give anybody a bill. I had a lady in Fort Erie one night call me, or one afternoon. Can you come to our place tonight, Lee? Yes, I can. I got there was 2 experts, supposed to be both doctors, out of the city of Fort Erie. I got mad and come home. They didn't know what they were talking about. She kept calling me and calling me. And I said, get your electrician in, take all the ground wires off on your house. She was very allergic to electromagnetic field. This is government again. They've got a law in Ontario that says they can connect up to anything in your home. She got the electrician in and he took all the grounding off except the main ground at her service panel. I saw her a month later at a meeting at Oakdale. She came running across the hall at me and I thought she was going to run over me. She said, Lee, I've never felt so good in my life. And this is government doing this to us, people. It's our local government that got these windmills here. I'm not happy. Rick knows that. And but I'll challenge every family that's here tonight to give $1,000, and I'll give one too.
Thank
and
you.
I don't have it like I know a lot of people think they do that.
Yep.
I've spent my wad.
Thank you, Lee.
I mean that.
Thank you, Lee. Thank you for your support. Thank you very much. We set up the website so that it has PayPal and fundraiser. People can help us making donations through the website. Bill and Yvonne at Everts and Jan and Larry at Rich Meyer Machine Shop on Highway 40 in Green Valley. There are a couple places that if people want to make a donation, they're available to drop in. We do need help in order to challenge this successfully. The science isn't the problem. We have them on the science. But we do need the help to raise those funds to take this all the way through.
CHATHAM-KENT, I said,
thank you.
I know you're going to meet with council or next meeting, but are you going to ask them or ask council? I know they were all for wind, but ask council to help the people that didn't sign wind leases to help cover the cost to protect us?
Yes.
Maybe they should grab some of that money they're making to help us?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Absolutely, Mike. Yep. Question in the back?
My name is Gordon Dunlop. I live in North Dover. We have windmills on our farm. All I have to say is there's been big problems with windmills on our farm. There hasn't necessarily been big water problems, but I do understand the water issue. I'm a University of Guelph graduate. I've been farming for 35 years. I've worked 10 years in construction, and I've done foundations on 45-story high-rises. So I have a bit of experience. I don't know all the science. We should absolutely have groundwater testing. It should be paid for by the government. We have our water tested every year, and if that test is not good enough, then it should be expanded to have the test done.
Exactly.
I don't think we should throw the baby out with the bathwater. Windmills are providing income and jobs in this community that are desperately needed. If I had the choice, from what has happened in the past, I would say no. But I think if we try to balance this out, we can come up with an opportunity to have windmills and satisfy what is needed for the community.
Exactly. Thank you.
With my experience, I know we're concerned about turbidicy and groundwater situations. We're an agricultural community. I've worked in agricultural industry for 8 years. I was a technical copywriter for many of the large agricultural chemical companies. Many of the companies have paid large amounts of money in the U.S. to have information falsified and pass chemicals that are carcinogens that we're using in our community. Roundup is probably the #1 issue in my mind, and there are agricultural people in this audience that use that product. It's been in the courts for 25 years. We've been fighting Roundup, which is going in our groundwater. So let's try to keep a balance about this situation. Yes, we need better regulation. Yes, we need better testing. Yes, we need jobs in this community. So let's try to keep a balance about it.
Nope, that's well said.
Okay, we've got to shut this down.
What maybe over here said, how are these turbines come about? And yes, our council did approve it for CHATHAM-KENT, right? And so they got money in return. But is it not true that if council hadn't approved it, the Ontario government, the Liberal government, could go ahead with it anyway?
Yes, that's.
Whether your local council approves it or not, it's the Liberal government, really.
Okay.
Now we're. Yes?
I have to say, I was involved in this 3 years ago, and that's my brother's board. I was at the council meeting. I don't know how many other people were, but it was pushed through. They were told they had to sign the paper. There was no question. They were not given time.
I'll turn the floor over to Yvonne now.
Okay.
Yvonne?
Okay. Well, we're just going to wrap this up. If there's any other questions, I would say come and see Kevin. Kevin's going to be here. Craig's going to be here because it's about time. But we got this raffle to go to give somebody a free water test. So who would like to do the honors? Okay, you'll do it? Perfect.
One, right?
Just one. Yep. That one.
Lida Van Dam.
Lida Van Dam. Is that who it is?
Lydia? Lydia Van Dam?
Lydia Van Dam, Route 5, Wallaceburg.
Is it Linda Van Dam? It's Linda Van Dam. Well, we've got her number, so we'll give her a call.
Okay. Right now, I just want to let everyone know about where kind of the donation tables are. We have one in the foyer and one here in the hall, and we're going to set one back here too as well. There's donations for the signs and T-shirts, and there is water and coffee. I'm sorry, I should have announced that prior to the meeting if anybody wanted water or coffee. I just want to give everybody a big hand for being here and supporting Water Wells First. I'd like to thank Craig here for coming. He's come from London to be here with us tonight.